everybody, I am the CHALL, your YouTube sporting journalist, and welcome to the Matchday Launch Show. Obviously, it's a bit of a weird circumstance for the Matchday Launch shows. Obviously, we didn't have one on the Friday for obvious reasons, because the game was postponed for obvious reasons. And again, I'll stretch this again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the royal family at this time for the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Today we were officially confirmed by the Football League that the game tomorrow against Barrow, as well as all the other midweek games, will go ahead. So that is all about today, really. So obviously you'll notice it's a bit of a different format with the Matchday Launch Show in terms of the design and the style of it. But there is only one major change, and that's after this show, which I'll talk a bit about now before we get started. So a lot of people were saying, why can't we just have the reviews from the matches on separate videos? So that is what I've decided to do. Originally I was going to keep it the same for this season, then change it next season for consistency. However, after so many people like the idea of that, I would like to officially announce that this will be the last of the Matchday Launch shows, sort of with previews and reviews in the same video. So the Barrow review will be in a separate Matchday Launch show, and the review for the next game will be in a separate show, if you get what I mean. So we're going to do it as separate shows now. But this is the last one together. So this is the last one where we'll review the previous game and preview the next game in the same video. So let's start on that first of all. So we start off with our 3-1 defeat hosting Mansfield Town. So this section of the show will be about reviewing the match, and then we'll head straight into looking ahead to Barrow. So in terms of the Mansfield game, I think, look, am I disappointed we lost? Of course I am. Am I disappointed in the way we lost? Of course I am. But the bigger picture is, before that defeat, it was our best start in over 30 years. Statistically, it was our best start in over 30 years. Unbeaten in 6. That's still great. No other managers made that good a start, so I praise Gary McSheffrey a lot for that. This particular match, I just think we ran out of steam. I just think this particular match we just ran out of steam. Too many route ones, too many long balls. We were playing long ball football against a team that were very physical, very, very strength based. And I did say in the Mansfield preview, I did say in that previous show, even though I predicted to win against Mansfield, I did say Mansfield will be a tough team. You know, don't let the 3 wins and 3 losses record fool you. Mansfield is still going to be a tough team, and they proved it. They absolutely proved it. And for me, Mansfield were always going to be tough because we lost to them in the FA Cup. Would I like to get some previous week? Of course I would, but we didn't do that. And weirdly enough, it was the same scoreline we lost last time. So poetic justice in a way. But, like I said, I think in terms of what went wrong in that game, let's go over what went wrong in that particular match. For me, it felt like too many route ones. It felt like too many lumping balls into the box. Mansfield could easily deal with them in the air. Mansfield could easily get possession back. And it felt like we were just giving chances away, really. We should have stuck to the way we were playing before. We should have stuck to the ground football that we were playing, try and pass Mansfield off the park, try and work around them, utilise the wing play a lot more instead of just hoofing it up in the middle. So that was one thing I pointed out. I think that was it didn't feel like we had a plan B either. It didn't feel like we had some kind of secondary plan. It felt like just plan A and then just keep trying it and see if it works. It's like insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. It just does not work. So on this particular occasion, it does not work. Secondly, too many individual mistakes. Too many times we've given the ball away. It is literally like giving the Cadbury factory a box full of what they think is new mixture for dairy milk bars, and you open it up, and it's a pile of cow poo. You know, you're giving them. It's individual mistakes. It's big individual mistakes. Like that, for example. But you know what I'm talking about. It's just individual mistakes, individual errors in certain situations. Passes going to the opposition. Really bad passes. There was a couple of occasions where they actually passed it to the opposition. And I'm wondering, where the hell are you passing to? So, for me personally, we've got to cut out those individual mistakes. I think last week was a kick up the backside to say, hang on a sec, we've had a great start, but we've still got a heck of a lot of work to do. And to be fair, during the unbeaten start, we did say we felt like we haven't got out of second gear yet. We've still got another gear or two to go. So I think that's given us the kick up the backside to go up to the next gear. And against a team like Barrow tomorrow, it's going to be tough. It's going to be one of the toughest games so far this season because Barrow have had a great start and they're unbeaten at home. So it's going to be a tough start, that one. So individual mistakes, too many route ones, didn't feel like we had a plan B. There were some individuals in there that I think should have had better games. If you want me to be brutally honest, I think Biggins should be dropped for tomorrow, and I'll go on about my predicted lineup later on. But for me, Biggins needs to be dropped. You know, I've said before, his ability is decent, but when his ability is not on in certain games, his work rate gets him out of it, 'cause his work rate is always top notch. For me, his work rate kind of dipped a bit in this particular game. His ability wasn't amazing in the game, but his work rate wasn't amazing either. Not to say he wasn't trying, but I felt like his work rate wasn't as what I've seen before, and I know he can do 100% work rate. I know he can do it because we've seen him do it in a couple of games before, a few games before. So for me, I think Biggins maybe needs a rest. I think maybe Biggins needs to be dropped for this game just to add that energy to the midfield when Barrow starts to tire out later on in the game, maybe. And that's a bit of a teaser as to what's to come in the predicted lineup for tomorrow. But for me personally, I think Biggins maybe just needs that rest. Just let him. And to be fair, I'll give this away right now. I don't care if we're talking about Mansfield or not. I'll give it away right now. I think it should be Biggins on the bench. Maybe Molyneux still. I know people would say drop Molyneux, but I don't know. I'm willing to give Molyneux another shot just because I want Taylor to come back at full fitness slowly but surely. So I would drop Biggins, I'd be putting Rowe in that midfield, and I'd be putting Maxwell at left back. I genuinely would. Because when Maxwell came on, yes, he gave away the penalty. It was a very, very clumsy way to give away a penalty. You can't deny him of that. But apart from that penalty incident, he wasn't actually that bad. So I'd be giving Maxwell back in his position at left back, starting. And I'd put Rowe in that midfield with Adam Clayton. Simple as that. So yeah, overall in the Mansfield game, like I said, Mansfield were very, very physical, and Poetic Justice wants it. They did some time wasting towards the end. We can't even complain because we did it to most teams this season so far anyway. So for me personally, I think, you know, for Mansfield to do the whole time wasting thing, I get that. We might be frustrated, but we've done it to too many teams this year. So I get that. I really do get that. So yeah, let's go into player ratings. Let's go into individual player ratings. You obviously can see them on the screen right now. Mitchell 6. I think obviously conceded 3 goals, so you're not going to get anywhere above a 6. But apart from them, you know, did pull out a couple of you know, decent stops. And overall, yeah, just I don't know. Just for me, I felt like Mitchell, he can do better, but he hasn't done worse. Noyle 6 at right back. I think again just got caught out a couple of times, but I think overall did okay. Williams 6. I think again for me just ish. Faulkner 5. Definitely the worst of the back 4, but I'm not going to heap too much pressure onto Bobby Faulkner. He is still a kid. He is still 18 years old. Did he make too many mistakes? Yes, he did, but it was a tough day at the office. You know, before then, you know, McSheffrey was saying in his press conference, before the game, he was the next John Terry, and now he's, you know, it was just a tough day at the office. So, you know, Anderson's out till October, Oliver's back in a couple of weeks, so Faulkner and Long are just going to have to try and alternate and try and fill that role. So if it is Faulkner starting tomorrow, then he's just got to, you know, use this as experience. This, you know what? I think a loss has come at the best time for Doncaster Rovers, and it's weird to say, but the reason why is because now we see how the players react. Now we see how they react, and I think Faulkner will be one of those that will come out fighting because he loves the club, he loves the city, he loves Doncaster, he's Donny through and through, his family's wonderful to speak to. They're brilliant, brilliant people, and Bobby's a brilliant lad. He'll come back from this. He will come back from this. And I think he'll come back stronger. And I think to have that experience of that defeat and a tough day at the office in terms of an individual performance standpoint, I think Bobby will come out of it fighting. I've just got confidence in Bobby. So it was just a tough day at the office, but he's 18 and there is still a lot of time because I think he's a great, great talent. Rowe at left back, 6. I was tempted to give him a 7, but because we lost 3, but because of the nature of the defeat, 3-1, no plan B, too many long balls, it didn't feel right giving anyone above a 6, to be honest. But Rowe would get one of the highest 6s, to be honest, because Rowe did try very, very well to fill in that position at left back. It's not his strongest position, but he can play there. He can play all over the pitch. If you ask Tommy Rowe to play in goal, he'll probably save about 3 penalties. So, but no, I think for me with Tommy, I think he did all right. He did a good shift. So he's one of the ones that can hold his head up from last week. In the midfield, Clayton 6. I think he, tried his best, tried marshalling the midfield a bit, but the midfield got very, very outrun in that game. Midfield was very, very outrun in that particular match. So Clayton, for me, just needs to keep, switching it on, keep bringing those levels up, and hopefully he'll have a better day in that midfield. Biggins 5, like I said, I think he needs to be dropped for the Barrow game, give him a bit of a rest, and then get his work rate and his energy in the midfield towards the end of the Barrow match, because in that particular game, like I said again, midfield very, very outrun and outclassed by Mansfield. On the wings, Molyneux 5, not the greatest game, but, with Taylor not fully fit, I'd expect Molyneux to be given a second chance as well as Faulkner. So, for me, I think that Molyneux will be given another shot. He's still a good player, but hopefully, fingers crossed, that will come in time. Hurst, again, another one of the players that deserves one of the highest of 6s. One of the better players on the pitch. On and off the ball, possession-wise, really good. Just needed that little bit of extra. Little bit of extra. Brand new sentence. But, yeah, overall for me, I think Carl just needs that little bit extra. Tomlin, 6. I think, again, at Cam, I think, again, just okay. Did all right. A couple extra touches here and there. There was one, I think in the second half, there was one little flick on where he tried to set up a chance, and just that extra, you can see that extra bit of quality at times trying to come out of Lee Tomlin, just needs a little bit extra. And Miller, 6, again, try pressing for everything, try working for everything, but again, just didn't get the goal, to be honest, in terms of open play goals. Now, obviously, the subs bench. We made 3 substitutions in that game. John Taylor, James Maxwell and Kieran Agard. Taylor and Maxwell get 6s. I think Taylor, one decent cross, but apart from that, not a lot of service. Maxwell, again, apart from that penalty incident, did okay. And Agard came on as a late substitute and didn't really impact the game as much. That's why I give Agard a 5 and the rest of them get sort of lowish 6s. But there we go. So that game for me is a write-off, just a blip, let it go, it's done, focus on tomorrow against Barrow. Speaking of Barrow, let's have a little bit of a gander into the history of the Cumbrian Football Club. Founded on July 16th, 1901, the club began playing competitive football at the Lancashire League at its first home ground, the Strawberry. Then they moved to a new ground at Ainsley Street in the town of September 1904. A further move to Little Park, Roos, in March 1905, saw the club enjoy their first success, winning promotion to Division 1 of the Lancashire Combination in 1908. The following year saw the club move to its current home, Holker Street, and the first game saw a 5-2 success over Eccles Borough. There was no major successes before the outbreak of the First World War. From an FA Cup run which ended at the hands of then Football League Division 2 outfit Bradford Park Avenue. That was the only exception of success before the First World War. The club ceased playing the result of World War I in early 1917 because of transport difficulties. Now, of course, the club resumed playing for the 1919-1920 season and won Division A of the Lancashire Combination of the following season, and was duly elected to the 3rd Division North of the Football League. Over in April 1981, the club won its first trophy since losing league status, as manager Mickey Taylor led the side to a 2-1 ATS trophy success over Chorley at Wigan. However, 2 years later, the club was relegated back to the NPL. Former Sunderland star Vic Hallam was appointed as player manager in the summer of 1983, and he took the club to the NPL title at the first attempt. However, his talents noted in the Football League, and just 1 year after his arrival, he departed along with top scorer Barry Diamond to join Rochdale. Over the next 2 seasons, the club had a succession of managers, including former Manchester United star Brian Kidd, before being relegated again. Now, former favourite Kenny Lowe took over as player manager in August 1999, and in his 4 seasons in charge, he led the club to the FA Cup first round proper on 3 separate occasions, as well as securing the Unibond Chairman's Cup in the 2001 season, and the President's Cup 12 months later. He also steered the club to the final of the Marsden Trophy in 2002-2003. Progress in the league was steady, resulting in the club finishing runners-up to Accrington Stanley at the end of 2002-2003 season. At the end of 2003-04 season, Kenny Lowe stood down as manager, and his assistant Lee Turnbull took charge and guided the club to 3rd place in the Unibond Premiership, as well as winning the President's Cup for a 2nd time in 3 seasons. The club joined the Conference North when it was formed in 2004-05, but apart from 2 FA Cup first round appearances against Bristol Rovers and AFC Bournemouth, there was no tangible success. At the end of the 2007-08 season, the club won its way back to the top flight of non-league football, then known as Blue Square Premier, after an absence of 10 years by defeating Stalybridge Celtic 1-0 in the playoff final over at Burton Albion. Now, sadly, the 2012-13 season saw the team struggle and eventually relegated after its longest spell at the top of non-league game since losing Football League status in 1972. In November 2013, the club parted company with Dave Bayliss as manager just a matter of days before he would celebrate its 6 years in charge. A new era dawned, and in the summer of 2014, which saw significant change at the club, with the members voting in favour of a takeover by Barrow-born businessman Paul Casson, who is based in the United States, where he has a number of successful business enterprises. Mr. Casson made results available for team building, and in April 2015, Barrow clinched the Vanarama Conference North title on the final day of the season with a 3-2 win at Lowestoft Town. The foundations for the future were laid, and the team went back full-time for the return of top flight of non-league football the following season. The summer of 2018 saw former Chesterfield and Blackpool defender Ian Evett take charge of the team. However, results were inconsistent early on, and following an FA Cup defeat at Chorley in October 2018, the owner, chairman Paul Casson, announced he was leaving the club. A consortium of local businessmen and supporters stepped forward to take over with Paul Hornby as chairman. The team finished that season in 10th place. The 1920 season saw a continuing improvement of matters on the field, and after a poor start to the season, the team climbed to the top of the National League table, following a 3-0 win at Notts County in November 2019, and remained there until the season was suspended in March 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic. The team was declared National League champions on a points per game basis on the 17th of June 2020, and after just over 48 years, finally returned to the Football League. So, 10 days, or around 10 days, after the last fixture so far this season, we are back in action against Barrow at Holker Street. It's going to be a really long trek. The coach leaves around 2 in the afternoon, I believe. So, yeah, that's going to be a very long one, because, of course, it don't kick off until, like, 7:45 or something like that. It is going to be a tough one. I mean, just look at the stats that we've got on the top of your screen right now. You know, we're unbeaten on the road in the last 5 games. Barrow have won their last 3 home league games. I don't think they're unbeaten at home. I think I got that wrong. I think it's literally just 3 home games. Now, the last time we played in a league game, it was a 2-1 win in Division 4 of the 1971-72 season. It was in January 1972. 2-1 win for the Rovers, and interesting, I believe that game was at Holker Street as well. It was at Barrow, so we are returning to Holker Street for the first time since 1972 in a league game. It is going to be weird. It is going to be weird to be back at a ground that Rovers haven't played at for nearly around 40 years, nearly, pretty much 40 years. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting. But I think going into this one, I think Barrow look a really good team this year. I did tell you about Pete Ward. I knew he would be a good manager. I knew the recruitment they brought in had been brilliant. I think the thing with Barrow for me is, can they keep this going long term? I did predict Barrow as my dark horse for promotion this year because of the manager, because of the recruitment that they've done this summer. I'm being proved right so far. Whether that continues is another story, but It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting. But from our standpoint, we need to get back. We need to get the win back in this match. We need to really, you know, excuse me, we need to really, you know, get the win. We need to really bounce back in terms of our form, because last season, one defeat turned into about 20 odd last season. So this is how, and I talked about this before, how this is going to be the most telling of our mentality, whether it is a new mentality, whether it's same stuff, different season. And that's how we react from a defeat. We had an unbeaten start, we lost last Saturday. How do we react from that? How does the team and the club react from that defeat? Do we go in our shell and go on a massive streak of losing games like last season, or do we actually find our balls, go out there and get the 3 points and get back on the sheet, get back on the score sheet, get back on up the table? So it's going to be telling whether the new mentality really is here to stay or not, because if we lose against Barrow and then lose the next couple of games, it could be. So it's going to be a really telling game. That I think that game, I think the Swindon game, if that's going ahead at the weekend, which I think it might do, the Crawley game, the Rochdale game, the Leyton Orient game, the next few games after this one, is not just this one, but the next few games afterwards, it's going to be telling to see whether the new mentality really is here to stay, or it's same stuff, different season. But that's by the by. We will find out at the end of tomorrow whether the new mentality really is here to stay. So let's go into my predicted lineup. So I've gone with Mitchell in goal. I've gone with a back four of Maxwell, Faulkner, Williams and Noyle. I think that's probably the best back four we could go with a goalkeeper. Mitchell number one, no arguments there. With Louis Jones probably playing the Papa John's Trophy games, and he's been told he could likely leave on loan at some point. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens with that. And the back four, like I said earlier in the video, Maxwell for me, as that left back, is the right choice. Williams and Faulkner, give Faulkner another shot, and then Noyle on the right. It's the best we can do at this current moment. Would I have liked to give Adam Long a chance? Yes, I would, but I would like to see what Faulkner does first, bouncing back from a defeat. If he puts in another rubbish performance again, then I would argue to say, give Bobby Faulkner a rest, put Adam Long in there, see what he does. So, but I'm going to give Faulkner a second chance, because he is still 18, he is still a kid, he's still got time to learn, and that's the best way we can go about this. In the midfield, Tommy Rowe and Adam Clayton, give Biggins a rest, use that work rate for the last 20 minutes of the match in the midfield, and have that about him. So when Barrow, when Barrow starts to tire out in the last 20 odd minutes, 15-20 minutes, get Biggins on there for a bit of fresh legs in the midfield and let him run those defenders ragged and try and make it more comfortable in the midfield battles. And Clayton, like I said, marshals the midfield quite well usually, so I think again it was just an off day. And to be fair, he did come out after the game, and McSheffrey did have to come out in the press conference heading into this one, sort of defining what he meant by players shirking responsibilities. And to be fair, McSheffrey was spot on. I think there were some players, not naming names, that did shirk some of their responsibilities, but these are players that are going to learn from that. So Rowan Clayton for me in the midfield is the right pairing to go with. Tomlin at cam, obviously. He's on his best day, he's a different class, Lee Tomlin. So that's the best way we could do it. On the wings, I've got Hurst and Molyneux either side of Tomlin on the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 kind of formation. Hurst and Molyneux, again, for me, give Molyneux a second chance. Let's see what he does against Barrow. Hurst, not done a lot wrong to warrant not starting him, so I think Hurst, again, earns his spot. And then Miller up front. Now, earlier in the week, my suggestion was to maybe give Miller a rest, put Waltman in there, see what Waltman does up front, but thinking about it, you know, it'd be wrong to drop Miller. And to be fair, I didn't want to drop Miller for the wrong reasons or anything like that. The reason why earlier in the week I said on social media drop Miller, give Waltman a chance, then bring Miller on later in the match, is only because I think with Miller's work rate and with his pressing, I think you give Max Waltman a chance up front to start off with, see what he does for 50, 60 minutes, and then you bring Miller on, and he'll work for everything, he'll press for everything. When the Barrow defence starts to tire, he'll press for everything and make them work even harder during a tiring situation, which could put Barrow under a serious amount of pressure. So that's what I was suggesting earlier in the week, but after careful consideration, I did sort of revert back to starting Miller and then maybe bring Waltman on for the last 20 for 25 minutes and see what he can do up front as an all-rounder. Obviously, the bench will likely be Jones, Kulea, Long, Waltman, Agards. Obviously, we'll probably we'll probably get John Taylor on the bench as well, and maybe experimenting a couple of times is because look at the difference. Long ball against Mansfield doesn't work. Before that, Northampton along the ground seems to have pretty much worked. But I did say, though, in the first half against Northampton, when we won that game 1-0, first half it was very 50-50 and there was an edge from one of the teams. Second half, pretty much ours, to be honest. So I think with the style of football that we want to play, stick to that style of football and only launch it when you need to launch it. Don't just launch it for the sake of launching it into the box. So for me personally, that should be the direction we should be going in terms of the style of play. Don't launch it unless you have to. You know, in other words, just stick to your style of play. Stick to the way we know we can play. Along the ground, 1-2, utilise the wing play, pass them off the park, pressure them, team pressing, all about team pressing for me. And that should be the way forward for me personally. That should absolutely be the way forward. So in terms of scorelines, I'm probably going to predict a 2-1 Doncaster Rovers victory. I don't think he'll be comfortable because I think Barrow will be up for it. But I'm going to go 2-1, and I'm hoping we'll get the 3 points to get back into this, race in the top 7 race, and try and get boosting back up that league. So I think we'll hopefully get the win to bounce back from last week. I'm going to go 2-1 Rovers. But what do you think, guys? Comment down below. And for now, I'm the CHALL. That is it for another Matchday Launch Show. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will be back with more content coming soon, including the Barrow review.